Since I moved to Sydney, at least for the next 2 months, I feel like automatically in a week, I've already had this glow up. I like how I look, and that is exactly the energy I want you to be carrying every single day. I don't care if you're not in Sydney here with me, if you're back home in Miami or New York, or wherever you listen to this, like take a moment and just like feel yourself because yeah, today's good. Today's a good day. I actually had a little bit of a photo shoot today and worked with an amazing makeup artist here in Sydney. Her name is Sumtra. And I also got to work with a photographer named Lucy, as well as the whole team at Cloud9 Studio here in Sydney. So I'm right off the bat going to give them a huge shout out because they did an amazing job. And if you are not watching the visual podcast, no worries. I definitely posted on Instagram, Eric Kramer. Just, go check it out. But this energy that I'm carrying right now is exactly what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about just that queen vibe. And if you are not familiar with the Black Cat Energy podcast, like, hey, welcome. My name is Air, and on this podcast, we basically mentally liberate you from all of your limiting beliefs. We straighten up your crown, that way you can walk straight and proud. And last but not least, we harness the Black Cat energy that's mysterious, that's independent, that's confident, that is attractive and magnetic. So if you stick with me, that's what we're in for. That's what we're going to be boosting. That is my soul mission, like mental liberation and having an honest relationship with yourself is so rewarding because external validation, people pleasing, crossing your boundaries, all those things go out the window whenever you harness your Black Cat. And yes, relationships become so much better, so much healthier and happier. You won't be limited to princess treatment because I'm going to go into queen treatment. That was a perfect segue. Like, I'm proud of myself there because I'm someone that often does talk about princess treatments, but when I go and I actually explain in my book, which if you want to follow along, this is the chapter that is about networking and your self-image. So flip to that. I believe it's like chapter 5. If you don't have the book yet, it's Love for Luxury. It's on Amazon, or you can find it on my Instagram. I'll DM it to you. Basically, in this entire book, it is about harnessing the Black Cat, but it's also about feminine abundance and marrying a man that's high value and becoming a woman that is high value. And the perfect woman really encompasses 5 different energies. Now, this podcast, you can go ahead and guess which one we're going to cover today, which is that queen. But if you're curious, because I don't want to leave you hanging on this, like the other ones are sister energy, you have daughter energy, lover energy, mother energy, and then queen energy. So, queen energy is 100% different than princess energy for sure. And if I have to compare princess energy to any of them, I'm going to say I'm going to compare it to daughter energy. So, do I believe that you should be able to have your princess treatment? 100%, because that's one of the 5. That daughter energy is princess treatment type of energy, but it also comes with being a princess. Princesses are not mentally liberated on their own. They may have a daddy or they may have a king of their heart, but that doesn't make them powerful because they're answering to daddy. They're answering to their king, their boo. Like, they're under him in a way because they're taking his direction and submitting, which totally has a place and time if you want to encompass the daughter energy. But if you're stepping into your queen energy, or let's say that you're not even in a relationship right now and you're like, Air, I have no interest in being in a relationship right now. Well, then welcome to queen energy because You don't need to have daughter energy if you're only answering to yourself. And a black cat, all in all, if I'm being 100% authentic, doesn't really hold a lot of daughter energy. It's definitely not an even, fraction amount amongst the five. It might be very little that she taps into, but she definitely taps into the queen energy. So let's just like kind of play it out a little bit here. Like princess energy, think like Disney princesses. And up until about ooh, 3 weeks ago, my hair was all the way down to my hips. I looked like a Disney princess. I was dressing very airy fairy, light feminine, and I was very much in my princess treatment era. And I loved it, and it was great. And I will not take away from the fact that I love not having to be mentally on all the time. I feel like women, we're constantly in our heads, we're constantly taking care of others and trying to make sure everybody feels loved and safe and, taken care of. Whereas queen energy is not like that at all. So I actually cut my hair and it's actually growing super fast again because I swear I cut it at my desolate and it's already above my breast at this point. But this hairstyle just made me feel way more like in control and free versus the long princess hair that gets braided and played with and just kind of that doll type of look to it. And if you go back to princesses, and we just use Disney for an example, like all of them were waiting around for someone to come and save them. Even Anna from Frozen was still waiting around for her sister to kind of take care of her. And then Ariel changing her whole life. She gave up her voice, she gave up her home, her family, just to go and live with a man. And now you have Aurora. She's sleeping until she gets her kiss. So is Snow White. Cinderella, oh my goodness, Cinderella literally went and had to like prim and proper herself up and then hopefully be found by a man in order to become, a queen. Like there's so many different faults in that, and I love Disney. They definitely have a lot of heartwarming things. And if I'm being 100% authentic, The Little Mermaid was my jam whenever I was a little girl. But I register that this is not queen energy. This is 100% princess energy. Versus queens, I think of actual historical figures. I consider Mary Queen of Scots or Queen Elizabeth or Queen Catherine. And if you don't like historical queens, then I think of like Audrey Hepburn or any the Kennedys, even Princess Diana. Even though she was technically a princess, she actually was queen energy. And these women are particularly different, not because they're like my way or the highway, but because they are always answering to their cause. They're not answering to what a man wants, they're not answering to what society wants. They have their mission, they have their purpose, and they stick with it. And they're willing to sacrifice if it's going to take away from their mission. And that is queen energy. I belong to the Miami Chamber. I don't know when I'll be able to attend another meeting because, again, I'm in Australia until at least February. So, with that, the chamber though, like when I go into a networking event or when I go and I like enter into a space where I'm like, okay, I need to be the boss woman that I know I am. Like the queen energy is going in there thinking, I have a mission. I'm going to accomplish this mission. I'm going to force myself if I need to accomplish this mission. Like all of the people pleasing or the doubts or the insecurity literally has to be packaged up and moved to the side because I have something to do. I have people to meet, conversations to have, and I need to walk away with X, Y, or Z. So that is a queen motive. Intention is there, action is there, and it's fearless. Not that you're not afraid, but you're fearless. And this is what I mean whenever I come into like a networking event. I am naturally introverted. And that's why I kind of love the podcast. And my previous podcast, Who Am I, which is still up, and you can definitely go and listen and watch. And I'm very much fond of those years I had. That podcast is actively running, but it was a podcast where I didn't actually show my face. And I was afraid to show my face because for whatever reason, I didn't think it would be accepted or valued, or I don't know. Like, I just didn't feel beautiful. And looking in the mirror now, doing the mirror work, doing the self concept, and obviously a visual podcast, I'm actually gorgeous. Just like every single goddess out there. It's just in my head, I wasn't actually seeing who I am. So that took years. It wasn't until I was like 28 that I really had the flip of the switch. And I was like, no, I'm exactly the way I need to look, and it's perfect, like flawless. And that type of energy didn't mean I wasn't afraid the first times I decided to be visual on the show, or even like, just show my body or express, my feelings or whatever. But that was the energy. It's like a flip of the switch. Some people will use words to be able to be like, okay, now I'm going to be this energy. For me, I get really quiet, and it's kind of like the Marilyn Monroe effect of I get really quiet and shut my eyes and I visualize me doing whatever the goal is with the tiara on my head, like a straight out crown. And I feel great. Like, whatever it is I'm about to do, I'm like, well, I cannot lose this crown. It's on my head. I need to wear it, and I need to wear it proudly and accomplish my goal. And everyone's going to see this crown, quote unquote. So I am going to be her. Being her is not that hard. Being her in public is actually extremely easy, but being her in private when you're on your own, that is where the work is. Because a lot of us can fake it till we make it, but we don't actually feel good about ourselves. But the queen energy is never having to turn it on and off. It's just always is there, like this doormat thing that if you need to up it a little bit, you can activate it through like the visualization or through a certain type of word. Okay. But mostly the queen energy is going to keep you from getting in bad situations. Now, recently, I've definitely decided to switch up my energies. I cut off my hair. I moved across the world, at least temporarily, because I have to keep saying that. People keep freaking out that I'm never going to come back or something. And I'm like, should I? Should I not? Like, the universe, tell me what to do. So, nonetheless, I decided that through my major move and cutting off my hair and just the year that I had, that it was time to really go back into the queen that I am and to forget all of the dusties, all of the men of the world, everyone that has ever doubted me in anything, like limiting beliefs that I maybe have for myself, and to just be her, my true, authentic, powerful self, and to not feel like I'm less than or that I need to make myself small in order for other people to feel good about themselves. And this is so powerful. I feel like I had kind of switched up my energies when I was in a relationship to where I was really letting this person take lead, and they weren't necessarily leading correctly. And it caused a lot of frazzle versus if I would have stepped up into my queen energy and kind of less go with the flow and more like, you know what, this is not working. Like, how about we try it maybe a little bit differently? Like giving suggestions. I don't want to control anybody, but just a little bit more of my queen energy. And That to me was beautiful because I got to play with different energies throughout not just that relationship, but throughout my entire life. Because when I was in my mid 20s, I had a company and I had several stores and I was 100% in queen energy, but no daughter slash lover energy was going on there. So, queen energy, though, is 100% going to prevent toxic relationships. A queen, think about it, is not going to let herself be abused. She's not going to let herself be gaslighted or taken advantage of. She is not going to let herself be cheated on repeatedly. Like, she's going to walk away from it. She's going to check herself. She's not going to let some emotionally unavailable man dictate how she feels about herself. She will straight up be like, this is not serving my responsibility to myself, and she will leave. She's not going to cause an issue. I mean, unless he does something terrible, she may behead him, but that's a different type of queen energy for sure. But she 100% is not going to tolerate someone disrespecting her. It just won't happen. And she is graceful. She doesn't need to cause a scene. She knows the power of her presence. A queen's presence is sought after. She's not chasing anything, she's attracting. And if someone wants to leave, she's like, there's the door. Like, I have no issue here. Like, and she doesn't stay where she's not wanted. That's the beautiful thing about being a queen. And she's like, where I am is where the value is. So if you decide to leave or you decide that you want me to leave, that is only hurting their value, because a woman's presence, especially a feminine goddess queen presence, is so valuable. And I know that most of you all are obviously female, but 30% of you all I know are male, which is really cool. And the 30% can definitely agree with me on this, that men know that women are highly valuable, or else they wouldn't go for us. And they also know that a feminine woman that is in a queen energy is rare and attractive. And then they'll be the first to tell you that they don't want something easy. They want to feel like they achieved, that you had a challenge like presented in front of them. They want to feel like the conqueror, the warrior, the king. And if you are in that princess energy all the time, or even the daughter type of energy, then they're going to miss out on that and they're not going to enjoy that. So that's not really helpful if you're trying to attract a mate. And that will be very limiting overall for your own endeavors. Because what happens when a woman gets in a toxic relationship? Well, she starts neglecting herself, her own emotions, her own needs, her own desires, because she's trying to fulfill theirs, or she's living by their rules, their law, which is so handicapping to what your potential is, like your actual purpose in this world, universe, planet. And I'm not going to say I'm completely innocent here. I've had relationships where I've been like, okay, I know that I want to get married one day and I love this person and I want to help them fulfill their goals and their dreams. So I had taken off a lot of the energy from myself to put it into the relationship. And what ended up happening was all they did was pick it up for themselves. And then they decided that, their goals were more important. Like, they didn't actually care enough to see my value. They just kind of loved the magic that I had. And they wanted to use my magic for their own agenda. And I'm not gonna like be vindictive or XYZ to that person or those people. I'm just gonna be like, look, love is unconditional and I gave it. So, you know, good for you that I loved you while I was with you, but I lovingly and peacefully got back all that power. And that is, again, a sign of a queen. A queen isn't going to distract herself from her goals and her life mission to go and seek vengeance or to go tell, I don't know, James how much he missed out on her and how lucky that she is for XYZ or that he made a huge mistake. Like, no, she's gonna tell James, she's not gonna tell him anything. She's 100% just going to not be there. That's the absence, the power of absence. I 100% am the type of woman that I'm like, if you don't see my value, I will try. Like, I will try to tell you that I am invested in this. And I'd like to work through whatever logistics or whatever's going on, especially if I'm in a relationship with somebody. I will be someone that's highly communicative. And a queen is good at communication. But the moment that it's really done, and they have shown you that they don't value you, they don't respect you, not even love. I'm just talking about value and respect. Break it. Like 100% break it. Leave. Don't look back. Don't try to convince. Again, you're in your queen energy. Why would you try to convince somebody of your value? You already have developed your own value. You register it. Leave. Don't look back. Don't call them. Don't message them. Don't ask about them to friends. Don't stalk them on social media. Don't do any of that because a queen doesn't have time for those type of things. A queen has a purpose. She has a mission. And if you have found yourself, and this has been me rather recently, where you're like, well, life kind of threw itself up in the air, pun intended, and sorry, sometimes I have to make myself laugh, up in the air. So sometimes if your life goes up in the air and you're like, I'm a little lost, I'm a little bit confused, someone that values you will sit with you, and I mean metaphorically or physically. They could physically sit with you and be like, let's work this out together. Like, life threw you some curveballs. Queens have advisors, right? And queens are not afraid to ask for what they need. And a true partner, whether it's family, whether it's romantic, whatever, will be sitting with you metaphorically or physically for you to be able to figure it out. And if they're a good partner, like they're a high value partner, they'll work it out with you. Especially high value men. High value men are problem solvers. And they will 100% go and meet their queen. They won't necessarily look down on her for, a quote unquote failure, but there will be a moment where they're like, look, this needs like to be fixed. Let's sit down and work this out. And it's like a 30-minute, maybe a 1-hour conversation whenever two high value people come together to accomplish something. And that's growth. That's how you have healthy relationships. Conflicts outside, externally, can be fixed between the couple. Like, but if you are in a low value relationship where the partner is like carrying a lot of baggage or wounds from the past, and or he doesn't know how to lead, or just trauma, whatever, or they're just not invested. Sometimes they'll just straight up lie to you and pretend that they care, but they don't really care. And you can blame them all you want, but it's still your responsibility to take care of those emotions and to pick yourself back up and move forward. Nonetheless, a queen will meet them with the problem solving. She comes up with ideas. She doesn't quit. She gets tired. I can definitely tell you that 2024 was a tiring year for me. And there was a lot of different moments where I'm like, my goal right now is to stand back up and to just keep standing back up. Because it was almost like every single time a wave would hit, it was like I saw the next one coming, or I felt like the next one was going to come. And a queen can be highly intuitive. That's very different from king energy. Like queen energy has intuition versus a king energy is going to be strategic, plan it out. But you cannot plan out life. That's the funny part. That's why every king actually needs a queen. And there's that whole saying that behind every great man is an even better woman. That's what that comes from. Is life is unexpected. And a lot of people try to get fixed in their ways, especially as they age, but then they find themselves that if one little straw, one little Jenga block comes out of it, the whole tower will like crash down. Versus a queen, she could have her entire castle crash down, and then the earth burned and just scorched, and the floods rise and the winds get high. Once it all settles, because it always does, change is always going to happen. She will pick up whatever she needs, whatever she feels is valuable to bring into her next chapter, and she will rebuild it. And she'll build it even better because she's building out of experience. And she's not hanging on to the fact of who crashed down her castle. She's not focused on making sure that the toxic ex is welcomed and in the new chapter. She's going to be very mindful of her energy and her resources. And she's going to be very mindful of who was there when she was low and who left. And the people. I was telling this to a girl earlier at that photo shoot. They always come back. They do. And this is not even about me. This is just every woman I've known that has had a significant relationship with somebody. They always come back. Maybe not to get back together, but most of the time it is some type of, they either want to get back together, they want to see if they, still have a hold on you, whatever. But a queen will recognize the difference between someone coming back to use her and someone coming back to be able to restore and rebalance and rebuild a relationship. And that's because when she did that whole leaving, whether it was somebody wanting to leave or she needed to leave a situation, she kept growing. Personal growth is part of queen energy. When you grow, even if you meet somebody in the future, you're never the same again. Like, it's kind of poetic, a little bit sad, but there is chapters to life. And the same person that you met when you were 15 and you were in high school, if you meet that same person at the high school reunion 15 years later, you're different people. And that's not a bad thing. Like, they could have been your best friend in high school and you have nothing in common with them, 15 years later. The same thing will happen in relationships. If a queen is constantly working on herself, or even if you're like, I'm not a queen yet, like I have anxious attachment and I always choose the wrong men and X, Y, Z. Okay, fake it till you make it, girly. Like, keep listening, keep hanging out with me. I've got you. Like, go back, binge all the episodes and ask questions, DM me. Like, you can fake it till you make it. It's one of those things that confidence is 100% perception. And whether you're using one of those words, the visualization technique, like, that's not going to matter, because if you keep telling your brain something, it's going to believe it. There was a quote that I read in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Yes, I quoted that book. I read the quote and it literally said, I used to think that my favorite organ was my brain, and then I remembered who was telling me that. And I absolutely loved it. Like, I had to pull out my bookmark and like mark it, and then I was like, do I want to write in this book? Like, this is such a good concept, because whatever you tell your brain, it's going to tell it back to you. And your brain is so programmable. It's so deceiving if it's being fed negative information. That's why we're here for mental liberation, remember? So the queen 100% is working on that personal growth. While that person's gone, while that person's left, even if she never sees that person again, she's going to be better for herself. Remember, for her, it's the purpose, it's the mission that's important, and getting really clear on that mission. And you don't have to have this like earthly goal in mind. Like a lot of people are like, I need to know what I'm going to be when I grow up or what I'm going to do for work. Like those are actually very low values. If your biggest goal is to become a lawyer right now, then I have to question you a little bit, because when you become a lawyer, like there's so many different types of lawyers or solicitors, as they say for the Aussies. Like, but if your value is justice, then that is your queendom. Because let's say for whatever reason you cannot become a lawyer. Let's say that maybe you can't afford law school or you don't pass the bar or whatever happens, right? You have to drop out and take care of your mom. I don't know your story. But if your value and your worth is I need to be a lawyer, you're going to be crushed. You're going to literally sniff out your queen energy. But if your value is justice and you're someone that likes to make sure that justice is achieved for the oppressed, or that justice is for whatever reason, like that's your thing, that opens you up to so many more avenues to be able to achieve your actual purpose, your actual mission. So a queen isn't married to certain types of low values. She's married to values like honesty and loyalty and justice and just honoring thyself. Like those are good values. Bad values are, you know, this could be controversial, but being a good girlfriend. Well, what does that really mean? Because that can change based off of whatever relationship you're in and who you're with. I even actually kind of want to plug in. I just did an episode, I'm pretty sure it's the last one that was here, that was completely about how being a girlfriend is ruining your love life. If you are someone that is in a relationship that you're like a little iffy about, or you find yourself always choosing the wrong guys, I definitely recommend that you go back and you watch that one. I felt like I was channeling something different in that one. But nonetheless, a queen has solid values and she sticks with them and they're good and she questions them all the time. Certainty, and this is something you could take home with you too, certainty will inhibit personal growth. You must constantly doubt yourself. And you'll see this happen if you go and watch movies about, any type of historical queen. Even Outlander, even though she wasn't a queen, like she was a surgeon and she was challenging a lot of different things. But nonetheless, queens are constantly doubting. They're doubting their limiting beliefs. They're doubting what people say is it possible. And they stick to that because if something feels so certain and we know that change is inevitable, we've automatically fallen in a trap. So a queen constantly has to doubt what's going on around her, not herself. That's the one true essence, right? But she has to doubt that it may or may not rain tomorrow, that the war may or may not come, that this man may decide that he doesn't want to be with you anymore, that something unexpectedly is going to alter your life, right? She has to be ready for that, not paranoid, not afraid of it, but mindful that nothing is for certain. And if she's going to continue on her journey, she has to make sure that her personal growth is always put on a pedestal with her. And this is something that does cross over from princess treatment, because most of the time, queens may be princesses before they're queens. And something that both of them learn is the pedestal. The pedestal is not there to take advantage of someone else. The pedestal is to make sure that you do not lose sight of who you are, no matter who you're with, no matter what the circumstances have. So that's a big difference. And I know that people take, you know, knock her off the pedestal or put them off the pedestal. Well, if you actually think about it, like, why would you ever want to knock anybody off the pedestal? Because if someone is on the pedestal and they're truly being who they are, their confident self that they were designed to be, their authentic person, then let them stay on the pedestal. Because a queen and a king can be equal. But if you feel like, and this could happen if you're with a low value man, they get insecure. They're like, she's getting too much attention, or she's too, bright, or she dances too much, or whatever it is. They get insecure and they want to knock her down. And you get a lot of these just mean comments, or you get silent treatment, or you get just the coldness from the insecure masculine. And you don't need to live in that as a queen. You don't need to live in that as a person, quite frankly, because any person that registers that they have a high value queen next to them doesn't mind if they shine. Like, think of Audrey Hepburn. So queen energy. She's philanthropic, and she's also an actress, and she's also doing X, Y, or Z, right? And no one ever tried to just knock her down. Like, they were actually inspired by her. They wanted to be better because of her. That is what queens do. They inspire people and they help lead. And they don't lead just because they have the title or because, they look a certain way. They lead because their heart has the mission, the purpose, and they're just being true to that. Versus, falling in love is hard. And I'm not going to tell you not to fall in love. I'm going to tell you to be mindful before you fall in love, because a queen can become dormant when you're in love with the wrong person. They will make you feel so insecure about yourself, or they will give you anxiety. Like, a relationship that brings you to your knees, that gives you anxiety, is not good for your queen energy. And then it becomes this negative feedback loop between the two of you all. And one thing that I wanted to mention, and I was actually going to do a whole different episode on this, was queens and the intuition does go back to the body. Like, if you are in a relationship where you feel so anxious and sick constantly that you feel like your physical health is being jeopardized, that's a wake-up call. That's something you need to pay attention to. If you have abdominal pain, or I know a lot of women that they'll actually start to have women problems, quote unquote, fill in the blanks for, my PG rated podcast. They'll get ulcers, or they'll get UTIs, or they'll get some type of headaches. They won't be able to sleep. And that's not because they're actually sick. They're energetically sick. And queens will pay attention to that, and they'll be able to get out. But if your light has been snuffed for so long, you won't be able to figure out that what the problem is the energy. It's the energy vampires that are happening around you. But when you leave that, when a queen decides enough is enough, you immediately start to feel better. It's kind of like magic, to be honest with you. But queens that neglect that intuition, that neglect listening to their body, will fall short all the time. And you can kill a queen. That's been proven in history. It's hard, but you can definitely kill a queen. But most of the time, if you're going to kill a queen, she has to do it to herself. And she does that by not being mindful of who she's surrounding herself with. So if you're in a relationship right now and you're constantly feeling sick, maybe there's something more to this. Maybe you're not actually sick because of a condition or disease, especially if you like go to the physician and they're like, nothing's wrong with you, you're healthy as a horse. Well, listen to yourself, listen to your body, your intuition, because clearly something's wrong if you have like no ability to sleep at night because you're too busy feeling pain. And that is not easy to hear, because at that point you're probably really in love and you're not actually listening to anything other than your heart. And your heart can be delicate. Queens need a heart. I'm not going to take that away. But queens know how to keep their heart in check. And that is through respect. That is through constantly recognizing their surroundings and who they're around, and do they have the best intentions for them? Because someone can say that they love you and not actually love you. Someone can say that they care about you and not actually care about you. Or they could love you, but they only love you at this small little level. They only love this part of you, or they only love you if you're not above them. If you make them feel good about themselves. If you don't challenge them, they'll love you or they'll care about you. And that's not real love. That's not authentic love. A queen can recognize that. And a queen can be like, okay, it's time to go. I've got a purpose, I've got a mission, I've got people to help, I got things to do, right? So, all of that said, there's one more part that I really want to get into, because I brought up the mother energy earlier, and the queen often does become a mother as well. She doesn't have to, but she may become queen to Mother Russia or to the next heir to the throne, whatever it may be. But the biggest difference between the mother and the queen is the mother can be a little self sacrificing. And she does that from day one when she sacrifices her body in order to grow this precious child. And the same thing happens with, like, being a mother of a nation, or being, let's say, the CEO of a company and having all of these employees that you're responsible for. The biggest thing that you're going to have to notice with the queen is boundaries. Mothers, and I'm not one personally, I know a lot of them, they can be a little loose on their boundaries when it comes to the people they love. And that's why we love mom, right? Mom will take care of me even if I'm 30. I go home, immediately I regress to being, 10-year-old, and I want my hot chocolate and, my favorite little teddy. Like, and mothers are all about that, even if they're like, I haven't done this in years or XYZ, because they love you. But the queen will understand the boundaries, and she'll understand what's not working towards the mission. So mother energy is 100% beautiful. It's very nurturing, very supportive, and caring. But it is different from queen energy. And even the historical queens of the past had to learn how to balance their queen responsibilities to their children responsibilities. And that is an art form, like, for all mothers to be able to accomplish. But nonetheless, that is all of it. Like, I am so excited for this chapter. I'm so excited to really get to dive into shifting energies. Shifting energies doesn't require you moving across the world, right? It does require you evaluate your life and decide that, it's mine. It's my responsibility. It's my life to live. It's my life to create. But you don't have to move across the planet like I did, even temporarily, unless you really just want a change of environment. But you do need to decide, what's your purpose? What's your goal? Where are you going? And even if you feel lost, you have to be able to seek out the correct people, the correct mentors to be able to aid you on your journey. Like, that could even be me. Like, I will 100% coach you one-to-one on your journey and help you pull out whatever energy you need, whether it's the books or me personally or just listening to these episodes. Like, all of it's available for you.